Yes, Mrs. Kakane.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Faro. Would you please then continue from Section C, paragraph 23 of your statement? We should be able to move with some sort of speed. But, yeah, please take us through.
Thank you. Procurement best practices. The laws, regulations, and policies relating to procurement are all well-meaning and are aiming at ensuring a fair, transparent, and competitive procurement of services and goods. This originates from Section 217 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa of 1996, which we also know as the Constitution, which demands that procurement for goods and services by an organ of state must be done in accordance with a system which is fair, equitable, transparent, competitive, and cost-effective. In terms of Chapter 11 of the Local Government Municipal Finance Management Act, number 56 of 2003, the MFMA, deals with the procurement of goods and services for municipalities. Section 111 thereof requires each municipality to have and implement a supply chain management policy. Such as a policy must be fair, equitable, transparent, competitive, and cost-effective. Section 112 sets out what the policy should cover, and I need not regurgitate, save to the highlight the following which is required that the policy should cover. The range of procurement processes that the municipality may use, including tenders, quotations, auctions, and other types of competitive bidding. Procedures and mechanisms for each type of procurement process. Open and transparent pre-qualification processes for tenders or other bids. Bid documentation, advertising, and invitations of contracts. Procedures and mechanisms for the opening, registering, and recording of bids in the presence of interested persons. The evaluation of bids to ensure best value for money, negotiation for the final terms of contracts and approval of bids, then compulsory disclosure of any conflicts of interest in respect of prospective contractors and exclusion of such prospective contractors from the tenders or bids. Participation of persons who are not officials of the municipality, and measures for combating fraud, corruption, favoritism, and unfair and irregular practices, and the promotion or the promoting of the ethics of officials and other role players involved in the procurement process. The city has adopted a supply chain management policy marked herein as Annexure YF1, which is in line with the Constitution and other application legislation, national and local regulations, ordinance, circulars, and policies relating to procurement. The city supply chain management policy has been reviewed and amended from time to time. For present purposes, I will rely on the latest one, which has been adopted by the council. The policy identifies the following as pillars of the city supply chain management. Number 1, or 26.1, fairness and equity. 26.2, transparency. 26.3, competitive and cost-effective. And 26.4, value for money. Paragraph 27. Further, the policy accountability, efficiency, effectiveness, fairness, legality, transparency, responsiveness, informed decision-making, integrity, consistency, competitiveness, and sustainability. Paragraph 29. In terms of paragraph 9 of the policy sets out the roles and responsibilities for the various role players in the procurement process. In respect of each, I point out the main responsibilities. Paragraph 9.1, the Council must maintain oversight over the implementation of the supply chain management policy. Paragraph 9.2, the Executive Mayor must provide general political guidance over the fiscal and financial affairs of the municipality as per Section 52 of the MFMA. In this regard, he or she may monitor and oversee the exercise of responsibilities assigned to the accounting officer and the chief financial officer, but may not interfere with the exercise of these responsibilities. Paragraph 9.3, the accounting officer is obliged to develop and implement an effective and efficient supply management system that is fair, equitable, transparent, competitive, and cost-effective for the acquisition of goods, services, and works. Paragraph 9.4, the Chief Financial Officer is administratively in charge of the Budget and Treasury Office. He or she must perform budgeting, accounting and analysis, financial reporting, cash management system, debt management, supply chain management, financial management, review and other duties as may be delegated to him or her. It is imperative that there is compliance with procurement processes and principles to ensure that the city, and more relatively, the TMPD functions optimally and properly. Ultimately, the city and or TMPD will procure services and goods in a manner that will be cost efficient and therefore fulfill its mandate in line with the pre-approved plans. It is important to observe that all procurement-related legislation, regulations, and more specifically, the SCM policy are clear on condemning issues that have become notorious in procurement. These include unethical conduct, fraud, corruption, manipulation of procurement, conflict of interest, and misconduct by officials. It is a foresight that leads to tenders being awarded corruptly and goods acquired at or services provided at exorbitant prices or at prices higher than market value. This will exhaust the budget and resources, thus leading to the inability of the municipality or the TMPD in this case to meet its obligations. Moreover, when tenders are awarded in this fashion, the expenditure will be irregular, fruitless, and wasteful. The foresight usually leads to qualified audits from the Auditor General. I now want to turn to deal with the unit which is responsible for asset protection. I want to start with the handover of the...
Commissioner Faro, just before you move on, just as a way of understanding, within TMPD, I would take it obviously you try and ensure that these values and principles are adhered to.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree.
All right. We've seen the testimony of a certain Sergeant Nkosi, who came before the commission, and it was clear, and we're still going to go there, that he had some involvement in how TMPD procured services or in the procurement of services for TMPD. Just as a request for your comment, how would it be correct or wrong for Sergeant Nkosi to have been involved in that fashion?
Sergeant Nkosi had no right to interfere in any procurement-related matters within the TMPD. He has no authority. He had no permission. I was not aware that he is busy interfering. I don't know Sergeant Nkosi. I never made contact with him. The first time I saw Sergeant Nkosi was on the Madlanga Commission. So I want to state it categorically. He had no authority to interfere in any TMPD procurement-related matters.
Are there other Sergeant Nkosis who are interfering in TMPD processes? We've only seen one so far. My worry is that could be the tip of the iceberg.
Commissioner Kumalo, if there's any other persons that is interfering or think of interfering when it comes to TMPD procurement issues, we will deal with them.
Has any politician or political party or somebody outside of the TMPD ever given you an instruction to support any service provider or to appoint any individual to a particular position. Have you, since you have been head of TMPD, ever received pressure from a political party or an outsider to make such appointments, whether they are HR related or procurement related?
None has approached me, Commissioner Kumalo, and I don't think they will.
So you've never yourself experienced
They
that
have not
pressure?
approached me. Since I'm here, I've started the 1st of October, 2023. None of them has contacted me. I've met with nobody on or off record. Nobody has contacted me to date, and they will not contact me after today in terms of any procurement-related issues when it comes to TMPD or to assist with HR-related or appointments. No, Commissioner Kumalo, and I am under oath.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Kaka.
Commissioner, you've answered this questions from Commissioner Kumalo, and it's about procurement matters, which is also the focus of your statement. But you would also be aware of our terms of reference, that we're not just confined to looking at matters of corruption that may be limited to procurement. We have a wider mandate that includes infiltration by criminal syndicates, the nature, consequence of infiltration in the facilitation of organized crime, suppression of investigations, inducement into criminal or other unlawful activities, commission of criminal offenses, and then aiding and abetting criminal activity, failure to act on credible intelligence, benefiting financially or politically from syndicate operations. All of that is not directly, yes, it does in the broader scheme of things, encompass procurement, corruption. But what I've read for you now very quickly is wider than that. When it comes to the TMPD, are you not aware of criminal conduct that involves members of the TMPD, even just allegations that would involve members of the TMPD, which is not necessarily about procurement?
Thank you, Commissioner Baloy. Commissioner, we have a very active internal affairs within the Tshwane Metro Police Department, headed by Brigadier Danny Manar. Yes, we came across that, especially when I came to the city of Tshwane. And we've dealt with them through consequence management, quite a few. We have to put also measures in place and make sure from the first supervisor, if your member is found wanting, that first supervisor must also be held accountable. You should know where your member is. So we are putting measures in place to make sure that we have a type of a credible TMPD. I do not take kindly to corruption at all, Commissioner. I do not want to see a TMPD officer that's a criminal in uniform. That is not what I want to stand for. We are in charge of the capital city. We are supposed to be the shining star. So we do put measures in place, and we're coming down harsh on those that, even if it's not to do with procurement, anything that is not within the code of conduct and the oath that they have taken, we need to make sure that we are cleaning up. I'm only talking about TMPD, but we must clean up all the Metro Police departments, including all law enforcement departments. We really need to have an introspect and make sure that we do that. We cannot just say it is not happening in my backyard. However, whatever we pick up, not only through the commission, we need to make sure we put measures in place that it does not happen in your department or in your city or even in the country as well.
I may just follow up on my own question. In evidence about another municipality, Metro rather, there are suggestions, for example, that officers are implicated in truck hijackings, for example. I think somewhere there's been suggestions, not necessarily for that municipality, but suggestions about involvement in cash in transit, facilitating those things. Is this an issue that in TMPD you have had to deal with, or you're aware of suggestions and allegations that your officers, some may be involved with that?
When I came to TMPD, it was September. There was a rest of TMPD officers that was involved in I think it was truck hijacking. Truck hijacking, it was involved. That was my welcome to TMPD. So we are not naive, and we know some of the officers can work together. So we are not naive in terms of that. We do make sure that we put measures in place for that. Complaints, when I came, yes, I received complaints like that. In the last year or two, not so much. However, we are not naive that those things are not taking place. There were certain hotspots that I had to put measures in place, whether it is only where it's only for when bribes are taken. Hotspots where you wait for somebody that's coming from a pub, maybe you know people are drunk, which you should not be driving drunk also and not have cash in your car to make sure that you bribe officers. I've requested the officers to actually arrest people that do that. Then I will applaud them. If you arrest somebody that's bribing you, not other way around. So yes, Commissioner, we had that complaints. We are putting measures in place, definitely in that regard. I've got the integrity unit as well. And besides the internal affairs unit, now the integrity unit visit the parades. The integrity unit goes to these hotspots to see where we get complaints from. They mostly deal only with fraud and corruption cases. So yes, Commissioner, we do have to put extra measures in place. You cannot just have your normal measures in place.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up on this? And Commissioner Faro, to be fair to you, you don't have to respond now, so you can do it by way of a supplementary statement. Issues arose with another municipality. There was no specific allegation against TMPD. So remember you said you were going to deal with the vetting issue and the BEC issue in the supplementary. So can you add these two other issues? How TMPD responds to IPID's recommendations. So in other words, if there was an investigation by IPID and they have made recommendations that have to be implemented by TMPD, what is TMPD's attitude to that? Because we have heard from Ekurhuleni, for example, that if somebody is being charged criminally, then they don't act against that person internally. They await the outcome of the criminal case before they act against somebody, even if there's clear evidence of wrongdoing, especially misconduct of a serious nature, which falls short of criminal conduct. That's the third issue, how you deal with IPID. The fourth issue, it came up, but there was no specific allegation against TMPD, is the issue of whether there are any private companies or security companies that use blue lights and have been given that authority by TMPD, if you are aware of any such cases within TMPD. So please don't respond now. It's unfair to put you on the spot, but by way of a supplementary statement, you can cover those issues.
I will most definitely do that, Commissioner Khumalo, definitely.
And I think the evidence leaders will assist you and remind you if needs be.
They don't need to remind me, Commissioner Khumalo, you will have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank
May
you.
I continue?
No, just to follow up on the question before one forgets. You talk about measures in place that have been put in. If you can just explain just briefly, what kind of measures would those be, one? And two, when would you say those measures were effective if you were to assist. And I'm asking this because some of the things that we'll go through later on would have happened after you joined. So I just want to get clarity on that before we go further while we're dealing with the suspect.
You referring to in terms of misconduct or what we are currently dealing with?
Just ensuring that there is no corruption, fraud, and all of those things. You spoke about having put measures in
Yeah.
place.
As I said, we want to make sure that like the Commissioner Baloy has alluded to, corruption is not only when it comes to the tender side, and that is that's one part of it. Corruption also when you stop a vehicle, when you accept goods that you're not supposed to, and you're not issuing the fine that you're not supposed to issue. Corruption can be anything. Giving information you're not supposed to give to assist in a tender. So, in terms of the discipline side, as I said, we had the integrity unit already in place. However, we also encourage the public to report. We encourage the public to report any form of corruption when it comes to TMPD and not only report it on social media. We want the public to be part of cleaning up any law enforcement department, obviously, but we would like them also not to participate in any form of corruption, whether it is a fine that you want to get out of or because you are driving drunk. In terms of the procurement side that you alluded to, obviously we've picked up, number one, you have a deputy in charge, which is it's a major general, it's quite a high level of accountability. It's just under the Commissioner of Police. By putting a deputy commissioner in charge of administration of support, that is quite a huge thing. However, we all know why are we here, and we all know why TMPD is here. And obviously people will also come before the commission to explain their role in terms of what they did or what they were not supposed to do. We have meetings, as I said, we have regular meetings in that regard. We also make sure that accountability is also for each and every deputy commissioner. But as I say, we're moving forward. We take everything that comes to us. I'm going to plan a very big workshop from the top until the full colonels, so that we can look at each and every measure and make sure that whatever there is that shouldn't have happened and cannot happen, that we will put that measures in place as well. And then each and everyone must take accountability for it.
Thank you. Perhaps before we move on again, you talk about meetings with your deputy commissioners. How often do you have meetings with them, or how often do you require briefings from them?
3 times a week, I'm meeting with my deputy commissioners, 7:30 in the morning until completion, Mondays, Wednesdays.
And you'd ask questions, or you'd rely on them to give you any update?
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
But it doesn't stop them from making contact with me after the meeting or in the in-between dates if an emergency occurs.
Thank you. Please proceed to the handover of asset protection to TMPD.
Handover of asset protection to TMPD. This section aims to highlight the movement of the Asset Protection and Security Services Unit, APSS, to Tshwane Metro Police Department in respect of this process. I highlight the following. The City of Tshwane Security Division was incorporated into the TMPD when TMPD was established 2002. On 15 April 2021, The then executive mayor of Tshwane, Councillor Randall Williams, placed the asset protection function and personnel in the office of the city manager, reporting to Mr. Nava Pillay. Then, from December 2023 till June 2024, the Asset Protection Security Services was managed by Mrs. Paledi Marota, the group head in the office of the city manager. 1st July 2024, the city manager transferred the Asset Protection Security Service back to the care of Tshwane Metro Police Department. I then instructed Deputy Commissioner Bollys, responsible for training and innovation, and standing in as the staff officer to oversee this process in light of the imperative need for a senior figure at the level of a rank of Deputy Commissioner to manage the process, which comprised of a wide range of junior level officials. It might also note that in terms of IPSS, there is a lot of supervisory staff that is still required. This was intended to be a temporary measure while I started the process to appoint a fully fledged Deputy Commissioner for Asset Protection Security Services. At the time of the handover of IPSS back to TMPD, 1st July 2024, I did not receive a handover report. A report was then emailed to me by Group Head Paledi Marota 9 months later during April 2025. What this meant, Commissioners, is that for the longest time, I could not properly acquaint myself with what was happening with IPSS. However, I did not wait for a handover report to try and understand the complexity of IPSS. The process of handover was not a usual handover, which had clear guidelines and made the process extremely complicated, as can be seen by the email attached and the report marked herein as Annexer YF2, which is in the bundle. As I stated above, the IPSS is a huge responsibility. Bearing in mind, Commissioners, I still have a TMPD to run. And as could be imagined, involves the physical security services to protecting the assets and persons of the city of Tshwane. It was imperative for me that I get someone senior in rank to temporarily oversee, as I already alluded to, and that was Deputy Commissioner Bollys, and he was overseeing the unit from 1st of July 2024 until 28th of February 2025, whereas 1st of March 2025, I appointed Deputy Commissioner Revo Spies, and he became the head of the unit.
Sorry, Commissioner, if you turn to page 60 of the file that you have, file 1, is that the report that you got, that you are referring to?
Just say again the annexer?
YF2
YF2.
at page 60.
That is correct. And if you can just go to page 65, is the email that accompanied the report.
Thank you, and noted. We'll come back to it later on. Thank you. Please proceed.
Ms. Kakani, when you say you'll come back to the report itself.
To the report to interrogate it in this session. Unless the Commissioner has specific questions, we can deal with it.
I do have one question, but I'm happy to leave it until you get back to it.
I think in fairness, you can ask,
Okay,
Commissioner.
all right. Commissioner, at page 60, that report, so paragraph 3, that very first paragraph in quotes, the implementation of the, you see where I'm reading, Commissioner?
Is it by the
Background.
background?
Under the
Yes,
heading
I'm
background.
there, Commissioner.
And then the very first paragraph in quotes, it says the implementation of the processes regarding the absorption of security guards is a critical deliverable for this administration. Extensive consultation and discussion have taken place on this matter to ensure it occurs seamlessly And then the next paragraph, it says, it is for this reason that I took the decision to place this process in the office of the city manager through Pillay, Mr. Pillay. You see where I'm reading? That absorption, is that what is commonly or has been commonly referred to as insourcing of security?
Commissioner, I
Is
prefer...
is it the same thing?
Yes, Commissioner, I prefer the word in-house capacity, building in-house capacity.
Yes.
So yes, Commissioner, that is correct. We have 1,271 of that at the moment, and we intend to actually build more in-house capacity so that we cannot be reliant moving forward on outsourcing
Yes,
anymore.
that actually is really my question. It is, if this big decision was made to insource, these are people that were previously provided by contractors, as I imagine. These people that are now being insourced, they were previously procured on contracted services, right?
Yes, yes.
And
yes,
now you
Commissioner.
bring them in-house. Why is it that there is still this procurement of external security that costs you nearly R1 billion, if in fact this insourcing was achieved its purpose, which is to bring the service in-house so that you are not reliant, and yet we see from your expenditure that in fact you are heavily reliant on external security. Can you just explain how it was conceived and how it has worked out or not worked out?
Commissioner Baloy, there's two scenarios here. If you have built your in-house capacity, it goes with your pension fund, it goes with your medical aid, it goes with all that. You must make sure that you have your resources, whether it's uniform, whether it is the vehicles, and you must make sure that they also trained in up to a certain level. So the municipality can, if you look at one officer, you will actually maybe need 4, if you look at the system and everything. So you need to make sure that it's a gradual type of, to insource it takes time. It is not easy. It might look easy, but it's not easy. If you look at the current 1,271, it was already in-house capacity was built or insourced in 2019. At the moment, but we are still busy with the training, and then every year we make sure they get certain benefits. So you need to have a proper plan in place to make sure that you, even if it's small amounts, I've already drafted a plan how I want to eventually insource, and it will take plus minus 6 years to 7 years to completely insource. It can be quicker, it all depends on budget permitted. However, I just took a plan that is, but if more budget becomes available, it can be quicker. And also the training of you need to train, you need to give uniform. It is really, the cost will be a little bit more than what we have at the moment. But the long term, as you see, I would prefer to have in-house capacity than to sit with the issues that we're sitting with at the moment. To stay away from tenders, and just make sure that we build our in-house capacity. Also, if you're gonna your infrastructure, you need to have control over your infrastructure yourself. That is what I believe. The moment you outsource, you also don't have completely and full control over your infrastructure, which is critical.
So is it fair, looking at what it is now, which is this heavy reliance on external contractors to provide this service, is it fair to say that even after this first attempt at insourcing, which you say it's 6 years now, is still training, that in fact, even after that, the city continued to be reliant on external
Yes, it's fair to say.
external services. So
Yes.
it's not as if there was a gain to the city. There may have been a gain to the job security of these security guards who were previously provided by a contractor. There is that gain. But the city itself, it doesn't appear that since that exercise there's been any any gain budgetary-wise and control of your own assets. Is that a fair summary?
That is fair, Commissioner.
Yes.
We must also know that the city of Tshwane has got a lot of sites. And if you look at the infrastructure that we are protecting, your reservoirs, your substations, those are things that you cannot leave and wait for until you will be able to insource. Unfortunately, those are the things that you must protect. So the city is at the moment looking and busy with it. Really, to have a more vigorous plan. The city has requested me to come up with a plan that is, like I said, that I've come up with a plan. However, if you look at budget, however, also how budget becomes available, it's a plan that I have to make sure in terms of the budget that I have, and then also a reduction in, we already done an assessment through Deputy Commissioner Revo Spies in terms of how many guards do you really require. For example, at a library, you don't need the same at a library that you will need at a water reservoir. So that assessment we have done already, and also a risk assessment. So in order for us, and we started already with even a reduction when it comes to the security guards.
Is there a municipality, whether a metro or not, that has successfully, if at all, absorbed otherwise outsourced security services, that has brought it in-house and it is provided solely in-house security services?
I think Nelson Mandela Bay, yes, one or two municipalities that I'm aware of, that they do have their own security maybe outsourced. So I think there's one or two that didn't even started with outsource.
Yes.
That have their security a division that is within the Safety and Security Directorate, and they look after, like I've explained now, after the assets and the personnel of the municipality.
And comparable to Tshwane? I ask because you say you are busy with that project,
Yes, I
looking
am.
at that, and it is budget dependent, really.
Yes, Commissioner.
Metros, especially maybe, that are comparable to Tshwane. Have you done that kind of comparison?
I've done
and
the
seen
comparison.
How successful,
Yes.
whether anyone has done it, and how successful has it been?
I've done that comparison. I went even for fact finding, but they sit with the same issues that I've, it's budget dependent. And then also it depends on how many sites you have. If you look at a small municipality, it's easier for them because they just have a little bit of sites. And the type of sites that you have. Is it a site that, like I make an example, is it a library, or are we talking about a big substation that 68% of the city of Tshwane, if that substation is not physically guarded, will be in darkness? I'm just making an example. So I needed to do, and we've done it, myself and Deputy Commissioner Spies, we looked at all of those, and we have plans, and I can promise you, Commissioner, starting with the new financial year, we already actually started with a reduction in security personnel by doing our assessment and looking into it, and certain security companies have received letters that we are doing a reduction in security guard.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Cook.
Thank you. Just to follow up, is Commissioner Spies, how long is he appointed? Is it on a contract basis? Spies.
Commissioner Spies?
Yes, how long will he be at your deputy commissioner?
He is permanent.
Permanent.
Until he feels he will leave or he reaches the age that he cannot work anymore. So he is permanently at the TMPD. It's not a contract position.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
And I think I've done the handover.
Paragraph 33.
33. Thank you so much, Evidence Leader. You are so kind. The subject matters required services of the below mentioned tenders were within the umbrella of asset protection and therefore fell within APSS. When Deputy Commissioner Spies took over, he actively engaged in a process of auditing and checking how the unit was operating. As he has testified, he has identified a number of irregularities and all sorts of wrongdoing within the APSS. We are taking some corrective measures in this regard, including consequence management, and we have put procedures for the requests for ad hoc services in place. I must continue to caution again that my role is management and therefore I rely on the information provided to me. I also am not very close to the details and therefore the appropriate person to talk to operational matters are those directly responsible for a particular function or department or unit. I'm not saying that I am not briefed. However, I say this to highlight that the most relevant person to talk to APSS and the tenders below obviously was Deputy Commissioner Spies. He already appeared in front of this commission. I do not wish to repeat also what Deputy Commissioner Spies has already said before the commission. I've gone through his statement and documents and they appear accurate in relation to the knowledge I have. I therefore have nothing additional to add to his statement.
Can you please correct the last sentence of paragraph 34? I think what you are trying to say there is you've put controls in place to ensure that when ad hoc services are requested, it is done properly. Now, the way it reads now, that's not what it says.
We have put controls in place, correct, Commissioner, and also a procedure or process in how you will request or acquire ad hoc services.
To ensure that there's no abuse.
Yes, 100%, Commissioner Khumalo, 100%. Also to ensure that when you require ad hoc, or we have a requesting department, say if it's water and sanitation, for example, you request to us, TMPD. TMPD will go do an assessment in terms of what your request is. And based on our risk assessment, we will then obviously reply to you, or we will add. However, it will come from your budget. It will not come from a budget that I must request additional again. So that is the procedures that we also have put in place.
I understood the problem, though. I think both when Sergeant Gossi was testifying and also when Commissioner Spies was, or rather Deputy Commissioner Spies was testifying, that is, I understood the problem to be more with regard to who gets appointed to do the ad hoc services. I'm not so sure that the requests, the filling in of a form and so on address that problem. The problem is with the allocation. I know based on what you said that of course it would not be the TMPD that does the allocations. But I'm not sure to what extent this addresses the problem in the light of what the real problem is.
Are you referring to the
allocation?
The allocation from the 22 companies.
Is it Gubis 85? Gubis 85 is the entity that received the lion's share of all ad hoc allocations. That's why I say the problem appears to be with the allocations. So the filling in of the forms and so on, I'm not so sure to what extent, if at all, that addresses the real problem. Do you follow me?
Yeah. Do you want me to respond, Commissioner?
You actually, I think paragraph 49 of your statement does refer to the lion's share received by GUB is 85. But right now, I'm addressing your attempt at addressing the problem, and I'm saying I do not see that assists in addressing the problem.
Commissioner, that was part of my one-on-one briefings with him. Although I'm just now touching on that as an example, we need to look at the entire process. Not only in terms of, I just use that now as an example in terms of, because ad hoc was just ad hoc, and then invoices comes. I was just using that as an example.
Yes.
However, you are correct, Commissioner, Chairperson. We are looking at the entire food chain. We cannot just look into ad hoc into an isolation. The end of the food chain will be building completely in-house capacity. That is my ultimate goal. So we are working towards that goal, Commissioner. So you are correct, Commissioner. We're looking into each and everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
The ad hoc service, this measure that you've put in place, that there must be an application or a form that requests. Surely when you have this discussion with Commissioner Spies, if he's the inventor of the idea, you must have discussed how you see it being a control mechanism. How, if it is implemented and it is implemented successfully, how does it work to be a control mechanism? And I think that's what the chair is trying to get out of you. Yes.
I think when it comes to the ad hoc, also the fact of that you need to look within your budget, because previously ad hoc was over and above, and then it must come from TMPD. So the COO is in charge of most of the infrastructure related sites, let me put it that way. And if there is not a good enough reason for you to have ad hoc, you will not even apply for it. I can guarantee you, commissioners, since we put the measure in place, 1 or 2 we received and it was actually needed because of external whatever measures. We have not received requests for ad hoc. So that alone tells me a lot.
Over how long a period was that? That is when you received only 2.
Since I've stopped it, Commissioner. Since I've stopped it, I think it was just over a year ago. It was just over a year ago.
Over a year.
12 March 2025.
Okay.
So,
and roughly how many of these, but I would imagine it was quite a lot. Roughly how many would these ad hoc services be requested?
Commissioner, if I come after this, it will go to that paragraph where I will say why I stopped it. I will also give the amount. I will just give the month.
Let's.
It was 37. I think it was 20 additional than it was supposed to for 1 month.
Yeah, no. Obviously, there is a significant reduction.
And
if over a period of a year, there's only 2. No, thank you.
So I only received 2, and it was definitely legit in terms of that. It meet the criteria.
Thank you.
Why we should put additional. So that is why I'm saying that is already a control measure.
Yes.
Because we haven't received.
So the question of who these get allocated to, which is the question I asked you earlier, would be secondary, as it were, if you have this very significant reduction.
100%, Commissioner.
All right, thank you.
100%.
Can I follow up on Chair's question? Are these security companies vetted? The security companies that the City of Tshwane TMPD uses, are they vetted?
Commissioner, we've put a security committee in place.
Why are you scared to say yes?
No. I was just a security committee in place. The committee was supposed to be in place where you have SSA, you have the COO, You have obviously finance there. And when the unit came over, I saw that that committee is not there. We immediately put that committee in place. And that is one of the things that we say the security companies must be vetted.
But are they? That's my question.
No.
Are they vetted? So
They
the
are not
short
vetted.
answer is no. And
No,
to,
Commissioner.
to go back to Chair's point, on matters of tenders, those who benefit from tenders will obviously seek to create an environment for ad hoc services to continue. So if you've got a reservoir or other things, even if there was no criminal activity there, if they want you to deploy security there, people will do things, and I'm not accusing anybody, so please don't take this to mean that I'm making an accusation. But it's easy for somebody to create an environment that would necessitate the need for ad hoc services to be, required. That's why vetting is important. You must look at who owns these companies, what kind of people are they? So are you going to take steps to put the committee back in place?
Definitely, Commissioner. Definitely. You are correct, Commissioner. And that people can create. We are aware of that. That people can create maybe a situation, sabotage, let us call it sabotage, in order for you. And we've already put measures in place, especially with the reduction. We obviously expect that there's going to be a backlash. People are not going to just say, I experienced it March, the 12th of March, 2025. People are not just going to go say, oh no, it's fine, let us do something else. So I am well aware of that, Commissioner. And what we do, the regional policing that I alluded to, we make sure that where you have reservoirs that we know, you need to include it now in your plan as well. That is also part of my plan, Commissioner.
We know from the evidence of Deputy Commissioner Spies that there is a tender process now that is underway. The previous or your current service providers were appointed by way of an agreed court order.
Yes.
So vetting would not have even been a feature, it seems. In the current process, is there a requirement that for companies to be vetted, for the companies that are successful to be vetted? And is that, and I'm asking about the current tender process as what was advertised. Do bidders understand that they would be required to be vetted, and in addition, so that's one. Two, that it would be a disqualifier. Has a decision been made that it will be a disqualifier if a company is not successful, whatever that means, when it is vetted? And do bidders have they been made to understand that? Or is that your internal thinking and processes which have not been made public to bidders?
Commissioner, I think if we want to get this right, we cannot wait for another 3 years, for another tender, and then they take you to court for another 6 years. I think it's important that we this time do it correctly. You do know that the tender went for property, and then obviously the tender was not awarded, and that's why the process has been started, obviously from scratch now, where Deputy Commissioner Spies has been appointed also to run it from TMPD side. So I think, Commissioner, if it's not there, it should be included, Commissioner, definitely. As I said, we've got the committee, the security committee, and that was one of the recommendations from the security, actually from SSA, the person that's sitting there. Even before the committee, the commission, that is one of the recommendations, and it's already as part of our minutes that must be done, Commissioner. So I think we must just build on that, Commissioner.
If it is part of the recommendations already, one expects that it is part of the current process,
100%, Commissioner.
the selection process that you are running, and bidders understand that you are going to apply that.
Yes, Commissioner, we will also use the minutes of that security committee
Yes.
as part of our terms of reference.
Okay.
Because that committee was appointed by the city manager.
Yeah, I guess I'm probing a different aspect of this, which is you do have the recommendation from that committee.
Yes.
And that recommendation has been approved, but that's an internal process. Whether bidders who submitted tenders in this new process, which is still subject to evaluation, whether the bidders who participate in that know that's one of the requirements to succeed to be awarded the tender or to be included on the panel, whether they know that's one of the requirements they must meet is really the question that I'm asking. And if you don't have an immediate answer, I'm happy for you to address it in a supplementary statement, or whoever's dealing with procurement and this tender in particular, if they're going to be testifying, that they should deal with that.
I would prefer that I add it to my homework, Commissioner Baloy.
All right.
And let me take responsibility for that as the Commissioner of TMPD.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Because you see, Commissioner Faro, as you said earlier, you don't want criminals in the
No.
service. I had Chair correcting me that it's not a force, it's a service. So in the Metro Police Service, you don't want criminals, and you cannot in the same breath be comfortable with having security companies that have criminals in them looking after the municipality's properties and assets. Because it
Critical.
defeats the whole purpose.
Definitely, Commissioner, you are.
So
you are
to
spot on.
Commissioner Baloy's point, going forward, it is something that should be, you can't fix the past, but going forward, there's no reason you can have this as a requirement.
Definitely, Commissioner. You are correct, Commissioner. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you, Commissioners. I just wanted us to locate the statement for Commissioner Spies. It's in the small file. But you don't need to refer to it. It's just item 7 of that statement. We'll get to it later on, of that supplementary band. Commissioner Faro, please proceed.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Thank you. If I'm correct, I'm at the top of D.
Paragraph
36.
32. Is it 36?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. You must focus, evidence leader. TMPD 02-2016/2017 Security Services. At the outset, I point out that tender TMPD 02-2016-2017 was issued, adjudicated and awarded before my time with TMPD. Bearing in mind, Commissioners, I only started 1st of October 2023. The tender was according to the award appointment letters managed by Director Malachi and Mr. Nava Pillay within the Asset Protection Unit when it was still under the Office of the City Manager. In this regard, I refer to Annexure YF3. As mentioned earlier, the unit was relocated under my control within the Asset Protection and Security Services Division from 1st July 2024, Commissioners, not 2025. Can I ask that be corrected?
Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. In this regard, I refer to Annexure YF4. Moreover, by the time I was appointed, the procurement process has run its course. The tender started on 1st March 2022, based on a court ruling that was issued on 22nd of October 2021. And I know Commissioner Spies has actually went more into detail in that regard. That's why I do not wish to delve in the occurrences before my time and also prior to the APSS unit transfer to the TMPD. Where I comment, I rely on the facts again that have since come to light and or known to me. Put simply, I will provide a high-level background and comment meaningfully on what I discovered. In terms of tender TMPD 02-2016-2017, it relates to a tender issued for the TMPD for the supply of provision of physical security services to protect the property, assets, and the persons of the city of Tshwane for a period of 3 years. A copy of the tender document and advert is attached hereto, marked as YF5. The approved budget contract value over the 3 years was an amount of 800 million rand, spread over 3 years as follows. As could be seen, this is a huge figure, close to almost 1 billion rand. The financial breakdown was as follows, although it was then delayed since the contract was only implemented in 2022. In 2015, 2016, the amount was 2,307,000.
237 million.
230. Thank you, Chairperson. 237,632,200 rand. Chairperson, you happy?
You did not say 1,000. That's 632,000.
632,200.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chairperson.
We won't judge you. We've seen worse.
216, 217, 245 million, 949,300. 2017, 2018, 254 million, 65,600. I do not have a sufficient background in relation to the procurement of the services, evaluation of the bids, and recommendations for this appointments. I therefore cannot state whether any service provider was favored or not. It is apparent from the court order of 22nd October 2021 that the city and Lebeleleng, Maslachi Trading, PTY Ltd somehow agreed that bidders recommended by the bid evaluation committee would be appointed to provide the services. Ultimately, and pursuant to the aforesaid court order, the city awarded the service to 22 service providers for 3 years, effective from 1 March 2022 to 28 February 2025. A new tender process started in 2024 to replace the existing tender that would have expired on 28 February 2025. Deputy Commissioner Spies has already come before the Commission, and I believe he has provided the relevant context. Also, at the moment, the new tender, we are busy with that process. As I said today, we are busy with the BAC, and Deputy Commissioner Spies has been appointed as the responsible person. Also, Commissioners, I know you're going to ask, why is this process taking so long? It was my same question, Commissioners. Why, if we know we don't start 9 months before the time or even longer, start with the process so that we can not wait for the tender to lapse and you go for a month to month. Commissioners, it can be, as you know, that is what the environment has been creating for a very long time. That we allow it to lapse and then we just renew it on a monthly basis. And that we want to come to an end. We don't want that to continue like in that fashion anymore. As I already alluded, ultimately my goal, and sooner rather than later, is just to build in-house capacity. and not have this function outsourced. Commissioners, next I address the request for additional funding as it was emailed to Deputy Commissioner Spies by Deputy Commissioner Umasi Dlamini that more funds were required.
Can I just stop you? I just want to ask just two questions, perhaps. The report that you got, just want to confirm for the record, it included the tender for TMPD. If you go to page 61 of that file. At the bottom there, paragraph 4.2.1 talks about appointed security service provider.
I'm still getting there. Just repeat again, sorry, Commissioner.
Page
Sorry, sir.
61,
61. I'm there.
at the bottom, paragraph 4.2.1.
I'm there, thank you.
The city appointed 22 security service providers, and then it explains the services. This is the same tender that we're dealing with. Now, I just wanted to check on your side, did you try and investigate anything about this tender when you got this report?
In terms of the old tender,
In the security,
the
security tender, did you-
2016, 2017 tender.
Correct,
Try to investigate it.
yes,
No, I did not investigate it.
okay.
Not at all.
And then in terms of your, of dealing with this report, did you ask for any briefing on it, or you were happy with how it is?
The briefing from,
No, from the person who compiled it, or anyone else who may be involved, or you were happy with the report itself as it stands?
we did request and we did have several conversations. However, we did not receive the written one, which we received at a very late stage. And by the time we've received the written document, rightfully so in what's put in an email, we had to already figure out the complexity of APSSS. This also comes, the report comes a month after I've already also stumbled across the ad hoc. Remember the ad hoc I stopped 12 March 2025. The report came April 2025.
Correct.
And if you look at the report, there's not much that is said even about ad hoc. If you look at the report itself.
Yes, that's why I was
Yes.
going to ask about your satisfaction about the report.
Yes, the report, yes, it was brought. However, you needed to make sure that you do your proper assessment of the sites, etc., to get more information, and then also in terms of the resources. For example, APSS didn't have any vehicles. For example, so the handover of the staff, all of that, and I understand the predicament that the group at Paledi was in. She also just was overseeing and was in the office of the city manager. So we had to obviously make sure that we do our assessments and make sure that we know APSS from start, and whatever measures that we have to put in place, we have to put in place from TMPD side.
Okay, let me perhaps see if I understand it correctly. So you got this report. This is now 9 months after APSS was transferred to you. So for that period, let's assume it's some vacuum. We'll come back to it. When you get this report, am I understanding you correctly to say you then did an assessment whether what it said was correct or not in terms of the sites and everything else?
When Deputy Commissioner Spies was appointed, the assessment already started.
Yes.
So we actually started already the assessment. Remember, he was appointed 1st March 2025. Yes, he took from this report. However, most of the things in this report we already knew. Through that, we have done our own type of figuring out what APSS is about and what we need to know. We did our own type of, you need to start with your organizational structure. You need to find out what was it intended? You needed to look at the function. You needed to look at what is the function of APS. Are they performing it? All those things was done.
And all these problems about ad hoc, had you identified them at the time?
At the time, ad hoc deployment, obviously, if you don't bring it to a person's attention, ad hoc appointments was not done. There was no procedure in place. So if there's no procedure in place and no written rule, that is how ad hoc deployment came about.
Okay, thanks. So we'll come back to it.
Can I just follow up? And based on an earlier discussion, you said that you have these meetings on a regular basis with your deputy commissioners. And one of those meetings is the budget meeting that happens, I think you said monthly, the budget meeting. Isn't that meeting the forum, and here you must say how it works and what kind of information serves in that budget committee. But sitting where I'm sitting, I would have expected that the big expenditure on ad hoc services, not only is it big in number, but it's exhausting your budget, what you've been allocated for security services. That I would have thought it's something that comes up in your budget meeting because you are tracking. That's where you discuss how are we doing financially. Is that what happens, and why would you not have picked up in those budget meetings that you have a problem with ad hoc services? Even if at that time you don't know it's ad hoc services, but you see a depletion of your budget going down very quickly, should you not have picked it up there in the way that those meetings, monthly meetings, work?
Commissioner, in terms of if you have the budget and the depletion will only come close to the end. The depletion will not be immediately. So yes, in that meeting, Watchman Services is the name. That came up a lot. There was also that we did not sometimes get the entire budget. Maybe you get 500,000. And then by the adjustment budget, you will have to actually apply or write to request because you're going to run out of funding. If you take the amount, am talking about the amount of sites that we had to deploy at that is not ad hoc services. That alone, your budget is running out already. So you will apply for that. If it comes to the ad hoc, as I will also come to that, the ad hoc services, where I pick up, yes, the ad hoc services is where an email was sent from Deputy Commissioner Dlamini to Deputy Commissioner Spies to say that there is 20 additional sites. That sparks me to look at this and say, I think I sent 3 consecutive emails that day to say, number one, 20 additional sites, because I'm thinking nobody, as you say correctly so, Commissioner, at that meetings came and said we have an issue. There was break-ins, for example, or there was vandalism, or brought something to my attention that we required ad hoc deployment. So I wanted to know, if you look at the emails, what is this ad hoc services? And why did you require 20 additional? For me, that was just a red flag. I also wanted to know who approved it, and I requested Deputy Commissioner Spies to do an investigation in that regard. I also requested him to stop it with immediate effect and to put a process in place on how to manage and how are you requesting ad hoc services. Needless to say, Commissioners, if I must just continue. After I stopped at ad hoc services, only now in hindsight I can see. A smear campaign started against me. Number one, my qualifications, it was said that I misrepresented my qualifications. Number two, it was said that I received a 450,000 voucher. I don't know from who. A forensic investigation was done and I welcomed it because I know it's not true. I've requested the people that do the forensic investigation not let, because Metropolis can do certified copies. I'm not going to give you certified copies. I want you to go to the university to go verify my qualifications. My qualifications was verified. Number two, who will give you a 450,000 rand voucher? Coming from anonymous WhatsApp. That was also showed that it is also lies.
You mentioned the voucher in paragraph 51
Yes,
of
Commissioner.
your statement.
Yes, Commissioner.
And there's no indication who the voucher was from or what it was for. The anonymous WhatsApp text you are referring to, did it mention who the voucher came from or what it was for?
Commissioner, I don't know what was the voucher for, supposed to be for. And I've never heard in my life that you can get such a big voucher.
So there was no detail even from the person who made the allegation?
The 450,000,
Yes.
what the voucher was for? No, there was no
No detail.
explanation, no, Commissioner.
Oh, okay. So you say it was an anonymous
Anonymous WhatsApp, Commissioner.
WhatsApp text, all right. Okay.
But,
Please continue with your response to Commissioner Baloyi.
Commissioner Baloyi.
Let me tell you what I'm struggling with, and then you become aware that there's a request for further funding,
Yes, Commissioner.
and then you give the instructions as you did. We've heard that from Commissioner Spies. What I'm struggling with, or what's not clear to me, is that you become aware because at the point where Deputy Commissioner Dlamini says to Commissioner Spies, Deputy Commissioner Spies, we've run out of money. You need to go and ask for more money. That's when you become aware, because I think you're copied or something. But
Yes, I'm copied,
Yes,
Commissioner.
you become aware of it. But I'm concerned about your lack of awareness before that email. On your account, you have these monthly budget meetings, and I don't understand them. That's why I was hoping that you would explain how these budget meetings work, what kind of conversations you have, what kind of information is presented to you. To me, a layperson who's outside of your systems, I assume that in a budget meeting, one of the things that you would do is to track your performance, your financial performance against budget.
Yes, Commissioner.
So I expect that there you would pick up how you are doing with the expenses, security expenses. So long before Deputy Commissioner Dlamini says to Deputy Commissioner Spies, we've run out of money, you need to go and get money. Long before that, you would have picked it up from your meetings,
From my meetings.
and then taken action to do the kind of investigation that you say you then instructed to give the kind of instructions that you gave. So I'm struggling with that you become aware only late in the day, and yet you seem to have a vehicle of these meetings that should be your alert mechanism. Can you just explain why it is you would not have picked this up from your budget meetings?
Commissioner, in terms of the ad hoc, you could only pick up the ad hoc if the ad hoc, obviously, Commissioner, is done in the correct way. Let me start there. If the ad hoc is not done in a way that it's supposed to be with all, that is why we are picking this up now and it's in this commission. That we pick up that people has done the ad hoc, whether they were authorized to do it, whether it was in a manner that was supposed to do it. So if people are doing things not in the manner that you do it transparent, and people are doing it in a way that they don't want it to be transparent, then Commissioner Baloy, then you will not immediately pick it up, Commissioner Baloy.
Case of in these budget meetings, there are no reports. There was no report, for example, about here's the budget for ad hoc security services that we were allocated, if there is a budget for that. I don't recall the evidence of Commissioner Smith.
No, Commissioner, you don't get a budget for
ad hoc services.
No,
you
only
get
for the
security. Yes. Does it mean that in your budget meetings, there's no specific reports that delineates, that says, this is how we are doing, we are spending, and we are spending it. We've spent so much on ad hoc services. So I understand you saying that, people procure services not in a transparent manner, and, all sorts of games get played there. I understand. I can see that part, how it would happen. But you have a regular budget meeting. And I would have thought that in your budget meeting, you would, among other specific items, be told, here's where we are spending. And we are spending so much on ad hoc services, and this is the impact of it on our budget. Are you saying nothing of sorts happens in your meeting?
There is a presentation that is done, Commissioner Baloy, where we discuss each and every line item, obviously. Maybe if I can also just submit that presentation to put it more into context of what was discussed as part of my supplementary, I will appreciate that. If it's then.
You can do that, but let me ask this maybe finally. As you sit there, are you saying in these meetings, as a specific line item,
Yes.
there wouldn't have been discussions, or there was no discussions about ad hoc services and what they were costing you and what they were doing to your budget? Are you saying it didn't happen?
Commissioner, the Watchman services is always a bone of content. That was discussed
So
in the
Watchman
meeting.
is ad hoc?
Watchman services.
Is
No,
what- uh-huh.
ad hoc is more, I will say, Watchman services is the budget that I get for where the sites that I deploy. So that will be the outsource.
Okay.
So that will be what we pay. The ad hoc services is over and above.
Yes.
So we will discuss, obviously, that invoices are received for, but I'm talking about where we deploy at the sites.
Yes.
Outsource where you are legally deployed. So ad hoc is when deployment is taking place, as I explained, and the deployment are taking place like we've picked up let me just use that as example, the 20 extra, so that didn't go through the budget committee. You understand, Commissioner Baloy? It never went through the budget committee, because has that went through the budget committee, obviously I would have asked questions and say, what is this and who authorized it, like I've asked on the email. So the ad hoc didn't have also a process in place. You cannot just put ad hoc, and as I already explained, and there's no process in place. So, Commissioner Baloy, as I said, we received APSS. We figured out APSS complexity as we go along. I stopped the ad hoc the March. I got a report the month after the April of things that I've already figured out, or me and Deputy Commissioner Bollys that had extra responsibility that we already had to figure out. So in terms of the ad hoc is not like now, it is a before request and not deploy and then you just bring the invoice.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it for now.
I want to make sure that I understand you, Commissioner. Your explanation seems to suggest, in particular because of your reference to sites, it seems to suggest that what would be budgeted for would be security guards who would perform services at the sites,
Yes, yes, Chair.
which basically suggests that there was no budget allocation at all for ad hoc services.
Yes, Commissioner.
If that is what you are saying, I find that a bit strange because my understanding is that there has been and for a while in existence the facility of the provision of ad hoc services. And if that is so, surely that would be budgeted for. Money would not simply be taken from the budget provided for rendering services at sites. I just want to make sure that I understand you correctly when you say there would be no budget whatsoever for ad hoc services. If that is your testimony, then I find it a bit strange.
Commissioner, that
If I'm mistaken,
Yeah.
tell me to my face that I am mistaken.
Commissioner, the budget received is for the outsourced security at the sites. So the budget that you receive 1st of July every year is for that. Ad hoc is when you require over and above security guards. I made an example where I say, for example, if you have a library, for example, you've deployed 2 there. However, all of a sudden there's vandalism, there's theft, or whatever, or you renovate it, so you put additional now. So that will be, or something happened, then you will put ad hoc.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
the examples. But my point is more this. This is something that the municipality foresees. So the municipality knows that issues like those will arise. It's not even may arise,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
will arise. And I suggest to you that this is something that has been happening. I would even say for as long as Tswana municipality and TMPD have been in existence. And if that be so, it sounds very strange to me to be told that despite this foreseeability, there would be no provision in terms of the budget for these occurrences. That sounds strange to me. There's just a budget for the provision of security services at sites, and that's it. And then you just take money from that budget when something that is foreseeable does indeed arise as it should, or as it will. That sounds strange to me.
I think, Commissioner, I think the CFO will be able to actually give you more context in that regard.
Yes,
And he will be
yes.
able to explain to you in terms of the allocation in that regard.
Yes, and possibly even the accounting officer, the city manager, if
Yeah.
the city manager will be called. Yes, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
This is not meant to put you on the spot, but it's just wanting to understand your testimony. Thank you.
Commissioner,
thank
I
you.
appreciate,
Yes,
I really appreciate.
thank you.
It is also letting, I came here, I'm at university, I came to learn as well, Commissioner.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
constructive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, Mrs. Kakane?
Thank you. Of course, we will reserve some of the questions for the CFO, but I would imagine, and we'll go to it at a later point again, it is part of your duties to at least manage the TMPD and the finances. And what the chair is saying, at the very least, or the commissioners, their questions are, at the very least, you ought to foresee what services that are required by this institution that, or not institution, by this unit that was transferred to you. And therefore you need to ensure, as part of, as I understand it, with management, to foresee that this is the amount and try and track previously how much has been used in order to plan for the future. Would you say that has happened or that happened with other services for this contract?
You receive the budget of Watchman services. You don't receive additional. And then if you require more, then you, obviously you have to put in documentation, especially when it comes to the adjustment budget. So that budget we receive, we do not have influence over that budget. That budget, you just receive the budget. I do not request the amount of budget. That is a budget that you received from the group financial services, which is obviously the responsibility of the CFO. So if I can answer like that.
Okay, thank you. And it would still be part of your duties as a senior manager to at least prevent mismanagement, irregular expenditure, and wasteful expenditure, so to speak. Okay,
Yes, that is part of my duties.
thank you.
Even on the question of the budget allocation on which you say that TMPD has no input, there's a lot wrong with that as well, if indeed that's the position, because the people who do the allocation, they may not necessarily have an intimate knowledge of what you actually require in terms of funds. So it seems to make practical sense to me that there should be an input by the various sections/departments within Tshwane. Of course, the inputs do not necessarily mean that you will get what you indicated you want. So that's something else. But not having an input at all, there's a lot wrong with it.
No, Commissioner, we do have input into, we all have input, all the different departments. You do put your request.
Oh, then
What I was trying to say is that I do not have control over the
what you
budget that
get
I will get out of
eventually,
it.
what
Yes,
you get,
Commissioner.
or which
Yes,
is exactly
Chair.
the point I was
Yes,
making.
Chair. No, you are correct.
Then I misunderstood
No,
you.
no. Maybe I didn't bring it across.
Yeah, you
that
went
way.
to the tail end.
Yes, but
which I
no, we
understand.
do have, we have regular meetings.
All right.
We,
No.
Several meetings where
No,
you
thank you.
obviously, each one must do the presentation.
All right,
You will
all
have to
right.
come there and explain. It's not just, it's a very intense meeting.
No, thank you. Thank
No,
you.
we definitely have that
That
input.
makes perfect sense. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Chair, I see that it is 1:01. Perhaps.
It looks like I thought we were left with a few pages and I thought we could finish, but let's take the lunch adjournment and resume at 2 p.m. Let's adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.